Hello, everyone. Hello, North College Hill. Welcome to City Community Development and Recreation, December 11th, 2023, 6:30. First on the agenda, could everyone silence their phones if someone didn't silence their phones yet?
Done.
Thank you. First on the agenda is recycling. We have a grant with, a grant was proposed to us. Recycle Ohio grant through the Environmental Protection Agency. And it says here, Hamilton County Resource chose North College Hill as one of our 2023-24 target communities because they have an underperforming diversion rate, but they have a strong recycling infrastructure. The North College Hill Recycling Outreach Project aims to build on that existing infrastructure of automatic curbside recycling to boost participation, both increasing recycling among current recyclers and encouraging new recycling households. At the same time, this campaign will work to reduce contamination in recycling. Recently, the Recycling Partnership worked with targeted neighborhoods in the city of Cincinnati and developed an effective method of converting non-recycling households to recycling households through a series of mailers and the offer of interior recycling collection bins. Resource would like to replicate and build on that idea with our target community. During this campaign, we would send 3 flyers to every household eligible for curbside recycling. The first will offer an interior recycling collection bin and have information on how to order a recycling cart if the household does not have one. Residents will be able to request a bin through 3 mechanisms: with a business reply mailer, online, or over the phone. The second mailer will have a list of graphics of what you can recycle. The third mailer will use the empathetic message recently designed and tested by the Recycling Partnership that uses simple graphics to connect with the audience about confusion over recycling. But I just want to let y'all know this is just in the phases. We just put in a what's that letter? LOC letter? The
support letter?
Yeah, we just put in a letter of support for this. So, like I said, it's not implemented until 2014, probably. But I thought
2014?
I'm sorry, 24. I'm sorry, I'm 10 years off. Oh my goodness. I'm Woo, it might be better. Price of eggs and all chicken and everything. But don't we have recycling though? Is it just is it the bins or
You said interior. Is this something for inside the house? So that's new,
see that's what I'm trying to
as opposed
is
to
it-
what we have the outside being.
okay. Interior.
So something we can keep in the house as opposed to that
Right.
big red bin.
Because I see on the curbs they have
Green one, Hunter green one.
Madam Chair.
the little small ones that's on the curb, the Hunter green ones, those are the ones I see. But yeah, I guess this will be interior. Because I have a mother-in-law, you have to put a bottle here, a cap in another spot. You know the bottle.
Serious about it.
Yeah, she's very serious about recycling in her home. Ms. Hickey?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
This grant, like you mentioned, would take care of bins for the interior of the house. So the thought process behind this is that some people may not want to recycle because they keep their outside recycling bin in the garage or out back. And so it's not convenient. It's not right next to your garbage can at home. So if you had one, say, in your kitchen next to your trash can, you'd start throwing things in the right, so we divert more, and that would feed into our recycling grant we get. But there is a cost associated with those interior buckets, vessels, whatever we're calling them. Containers, thank you. Right now, so the grant would cover one for each residence.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Blank?
when we get to the interior bins, does it mention anything about, sections? Is it just one big bin just to get you kind of started, just one bin?
That's my
Oh,
understanding.
okay.
But there's only one, you only have one bin outside, so it's
Right.
not like you have to separate it inside.
Yeah, okay. I was just wondering if maybe it was
One for
evolving.
cats, one for bottles.
Into,
Not yet.
glass, plastic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, no, okay.
And I'm just curious that after you separate this, then you put the bin on the curb and run, oh, okay, okay.
So what you can
And
do.
then you bring it back in your
the-
house?
I know. Sound like an outside bin to me.
Right, so the interior bins are smaller, right? So the
Okay.
thought is you would probably dump that into your outside container maybe once or twice during the week. So you're not doing it daily and you're not forgetting to do it on garbage night, right? So let's say you fill it up and you dump it in your recycling bin on Tuesday and then you need to dump it in on Thursday and then you do it once over the weekend, that it's sort of getting people to get it out to the curb to be recycled, because it's no good if we don't pick it up, right? So eventually it's got to get out by the curb. So hopefully this would encourage, like, again, when you're, instead of throwing it in the trash, you're going to throw trash in trash, recycling in recycling, and then you'll get the recycling into the bin will go to the curb, then it goes to Rumpke for recycling.
So actually, you're separating it before you get it outside?
You don't have to, you're separating your trash from
In
your
the house,
recycling.
in the home?
Right,
Correct.
the way I have
Before.
a bin in my house for recycling and one for trash.
Just the-
We just
I
take
have
the
a
bin
black
down.
bin next to my garbage
So do I.
can in the kitchen. I have like a 6-gallon black trash can, and that's where I put all, and then, you know what I mean, every other day I'll dump it into the big green bin.
Right, yeah.
So
Mr.
this new bin will not stay outside. You take it outside, dump it into your recycling, your
Well,
Hunter
okay.
Green recycling bin,
And then
it
you
back
bring
in.
it back?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just like taking your bag of garbage from your garbage can.
That
take it
sounds
out.
much better.
Yes.
I was thinking you took the whole thing out and Rumpke picked it up and dumped it and put it back.
And crush it.
Mr. Wilson,
Yeah,
you
I'm
have
just-
something to share?
Yes, I'm just saying that the bin sounds just simple as day. So same thing I do now. I don't have a Pacific bin in my home that's marked recycling, but I do have a trash can that I use specifically for recycling. So I throw all my recyclables in that can, carry it out to my recycling bin outside my house, then I go back in. So I don't have to take that bin out until it's due to hit the curve. But that's the purpose of the recycling bin in the house, is
Okay.
to where you have that opportunity to recycle and not throw your trash together. So
It might
So
be
it won't
like
get
the
mixed
blue
up.
bins that we have in our office, they give us free, 6-gallon blue with the little signature on it, and then you can put all your paper in there, and then every day or once a week, you take it out to the main one in the hallway. That's how
Okay.
we get a free recycle bin at work for our individual office, which we carry out into the hallway,
Madam Chair,
yeah.
Ms. Orr?
do you have any idea of any dates for that? Because
Oh, that
I
was
myself
just
am
next
personally
what I was-
excited about getting an interior bin. I
Okay.
just use Kroger bags hanging on my door now.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about getting a bin.
Okay. It says mid-May 2024. I have some more here.
Oh,
Signed grant contract. It says, hold kickoff meeting with North College Hill Administration Community Leaders, Rumpke, and Groundwork, Ohio River Valley, and order the bins and then design the postcards. That's mid-May. And then June 2024, receive the order of the bins, print postcards. Rumpke collects pre-campaign participation data. That's June. So I'm thinking it'll be implemented July 2024. Send first mailing to residents. Coordinate interior bin delivery with Groundwork, Ohio Valley, River Valley. Coordinate recycling cart delivery with Rumpke. Then it says August 24th. So I'm thinking after they do all this in July, yeah, it'll be ready in August. It'll be far.
I know. Still using my Kroger bags. That's all
Well,
right.
It's recycling important.
It is.
It's just an important thing. It's,
Thank you for
just-
that. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions about this grant? Let me see if I'm missing anything here. It might be. Okay. Anybody have any more questions about the recycling?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
so just as part of the process, did we apply for this or they sought us?
They sought us.
Okay.
Yeah, they sought
We
us.
were not,
We were underperforming.
we were underperforming, yeah.
They sought us, so.
Madam Chair, if I may,
me see
this
if you-
opportunity came to us through Gage Bradford, who we worked with on the recycling initiative we have now, as well as the hazardous household waste. So we have formed a very good working relationship with these folks, and that is why they came to us. Because they saw some additional opportunities that we're a community that's not participating in this right now, where some of our neighboring communities are, and they gave us the opportunity. I mean, we could have declined, but I didn't see a reason to.
Oh,
Right.
No, thank you.
Good for you.
That's a good opportunity. Okay, any more questions for recycling? Next on the agenda, is Recreation Department update with Ms. Claire.
Thank you. I did give you a written version of my report. I don't know if it made it out to the committee, but I have one extra printed copy as my printer at home was just like, nope, not today. So, okay. So I just wanted to give you some updates. The Recreation Commission met on November the 15th, and we discussed, primarily discussed the calendar of events for 2024 and brainstormed some ideas, just very generally. And we also discussed potential recreational programming that we might be able to offer now that we do have a facility that is able to handle some of this programming that we would like to do. Very recently, I was connected with a person with, for example, the 4-H club through the Ohio State University Extension Office. So we're going to be meeting this week, and center stage players actually. So they actually had come for another purpose, and I said, hey, while you're here, do you do any smaller scale productions or workshops or things like that? So we're also going to be meeting to see if potentially, they would be able to offer some programming for the community at the senior center. And there's just been a lot of interest, which is good. I can actually do something with that. Now we have a building. It's exciting. So our next meeting is not yet scheduled. We have not determined our meeting schedule for 2024 as of yet, but that is something that I'm going to be reaching out to the group. We are short 2 positions on the commission. One of them would be a school superintendent appointee, and the other one would be appointed by the mayor. But one of the things that I have talked about is restructuring this commission, because I would love to have a student or 2 be on this commission as a junior commissioner, if possible. I'm old. I don't know what teenagers are. My kids have graduated high school. I need to know what that would be of interest to that range, and how can we engage that group and just get some input. And plus it's a good educational opportunity, I would think, for students. So I proposed that a couple times, but we'll probably be revisiting that again to kind of see if we can restructure that commission. And I realize that involves changing, either amending the charter or maybe making an exception or an ordinance or resolution or something. I don't know how that would work, but that's down the line, but it's in my brain. Other departmental updates, winter maintenance projects for the parks have been decided. We met with Public Works a couple weeks ago. We're going to be fixing the swings at Veterans Park. We do have new swings, and there were a few other projects that I can't think of off the top of my head. One of them at least involves mulch, but I can't remember which park it was. I wrote it down, and then I promptly forgot. So sorry about that. But those are the projects, some of the things that we did discuss. I will let you know also that we have ordered the park benches and picnic tables. They're made from recycled materials. They've been ordered for Stapleton, Dumley, and Veterans Park. And we are using said recycling funds, which we just discussed. So that grant funding is being used to help purchase that park furniture. First set of picnic tables has already arrived, and the park benches, I believe, will arrive in January. Because there was a few weeks
Those
lead
parks
time.
again,
I beg your pardon?
Would you repeat those parks again? Dumley?
Dumley, Stapleton, and Veterans Park.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Blake?
I wanted to ask Ms. Clear, what are some examples of materials that the park benches are made of? I'm just curious.
The plastic, primarily, it is post-consumer recycled plastic.
Plastic. Okay.
Recycling.
Thank you.
Yeah, and they have really good warranties on them too, so I was actually kind of surprised. And it's a local supplier. They're actually based out of Norwood, so they're relatively local, and that also helps reduce the carbon footprint for getting these things in-house.
You say warranties, like,
So again,
for instance?
like sometimes if you leave plastic furniture outside, it cracks or it fades, just things like that.
Okay.
There's warranties on these that are really, we're talking decades that they're guaranteeing that their product will still be in good shape. So I think that's a good
Okay.
investment for the city and a good use of these funds.
Yeah, they are made from plastic.
Yes.
Plastic lasts
Forever.
long, forever.
That and polyester.
One of the other highlights is we are looking to replace the main park signs. Those are also on order. We're looking at some designs for that. I think we've got it narrowed down. It's very conservative. It's just the park name and the address on the sign.
Okay.
Just keeping it simple. They're going to be made not from, I don't know what the signs were made from before, but they didn't last very long. Comparatively speaking. I think the only surviving sign is at Veterans Park right now. These will be heavy gauge aluminum. They'll be coated with a laminate that if anyone were to decide they wanted to add their own artwork to the sign, it can be cleaned off fairly easily. So with this coating that's on it, I'm saying that as a euphemism, of course. But the coating will allow us to easily clean the signs if necessary. And they should last a long time. They won't rust, they're aluminum. So that's also in the works. And I have a couple of grant opportunities I'm looking at to run through with the CIC. We did, all that is the memorandum of understanding for the fundraising relationship has been signed. The bank account's been set up. That is set aside just for the grant funding. And we're identifying a couple of grants that we're going to go for next year for some of the additional projects that we have that we, I don't know if I can't remember if they're in my budget or not. It's been a long time, but some of these projects might be new, and some of them might be something that ordinarily would have used Gen Fund. But if I can get grant funding for that, then that's a plus. So we're going to try and do that as well. And last but not least, on my major updates is we are looking at starting a registered volunteer program, and I think this might be, our guest might be of interest to this, but it's being developed. We met with the city's insurance provider to kind of talk about what kind of parameters do we need, and what kind of training would these folks need to have, and how would they need to be vetted in order to be a registered volunteers. And the reason for that is to establish a pool of background checked registered volunteers that could help with city-led events. They could maybe lead some recreational programming. They could lead some community service projects around the city. If, like the youth football, to assist, provide assistance with groups like that if they need additional volunteer support. So that is kind of one of my goals for 2024 is to get that program off the ground. And hopefully that'll be a big benefit to the city long term to get that network in place.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Ms. Orb?
So, Ms. Clear, I want to back you up a little bit. I heard you mention something about you're contemplating restructuring the rec commission. I have two questions. One, any chance and I was trying to bring up my laptop, but it's doing a reboot, so I couldn't look up the charter myself. So in the charter, I'm assuming the whole rec commission layout is in the charter.
Yes, it is.
So,
Section 10.03, I think.
thank you. So my first question is, have you run it by the law director to even see what that would look like for a charter change? And then what else do you need from council to help you make that happen?
This is all very conceptual at this point.
Okay.
We're kind of looking at where we are, where we're struggling. Part of the struggle that we have is because the commission is constrained to 6 people only. Some of the other commissions allow you to have additional members, but you need to have these core folks. The Recreation Commission is not set up like that, so we're kind of stuck in a box. We can only have so many people, and they have to be these people. And it's challenging because everybody's busy, and when you have a really small group, a lot of times, even if we wanted to meet, we can't because only 2 of us are available. So we have to reschedule, and if we had a larger group of people, I'm thinking it'd be more likely that we would have enough folks attend that or participate. That's one thing. The other thing is, again, I would like to have a youth, a junior commissioner potentially on that commission. But again, it's very conceptual. Nothing's really been written out. I think maybe a year or so ago, I had approached the mayor and Superintendent Blaylock because both of them feed members to that commission to kind of gauge their thoughts. It was busy. It was a bad time of year to ask them for input. But so it kind of has gotten on the back burner. But now that we're starting to plan for 2024, now that I've got a good couple of years of a cycle, in my head of working for the city, I can kind of formulate, we're trying to work through how would this be structured, what would be a good way to do this. Would it also include parks, or is it just recreation? Those kinds of things. A lot of cities do have a parks board, which is separate from recreation, but that's a whole other, I don't think we have the capacity for that. I think recreation could potentially absorb that, but we haven't really gone into that level of detail yet.
Keep in mind, the more people you have on your board, the more people you have to have for quorum.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
there's good and bad to that.
Right.
Mr. Wilson?
Yeah, that was pretty much what I wanted to address the commission about this evening. As far as the parks, I hear a lot of talk about the other 3 parks, but I haven't heard any talk about this park right behind y'all. That's confusing to me because it's a part of our community. And we might not own it outright, but it's still a part of our community. And that part is just as viable to our community as any other park. I have people coming back to it. It's Plies Park. Yeah, Plies Park. And then they have the School of the Blind has the upper half of the field too, which is the North Creek Park. But right there in the Plies at the beginning, like I said, it's a community park. We're not sinking nothing into it. We had the city come out and drop off a pile of mulch that sat there this whole entire summer. Then nobody come out and put it into the play bin or anything. They stopped cutting the grass. They don't come out and pick up the trash. How do I know? Because I'm the one picking it up. I still right now have an issue because I have tires that was thrown in the backwoods there, along with somebody discarded toys that they no longer want in their home. And so what they think is that park is a dumping ground, and it's not. I'm calling local enforcement and telling them, and it's not a priority. So all I'm asking is that you guys take a look at just more than just the 3 parks. Let's look at all our parks because it's a part of our community.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. It's noted.
Madam Chair?
Ms. Clear?
Specifically as it relates to the park furniture and the 3 parks that were mentioned, They actually have space within those parks that are currently being used for picnic areas, and this would replace existing furniture. And Veterans Park has the grills and the covered area, but no picnic bench or picnic tables. So and plus there's a limited amount of funding in that grant. So that's where that is. Speaking with relation to the mulch, that is probably the park that was in my head that I couldn't think of when I mentioned the mulch earlier, to get that distributed to Pies Park. I believe that was one of the parks that was on the list. I didn't have that on the top of my head when we were talking about mulch earlier. So yes, all the parks are on the radar screen, including Wise Park up the street, and Shaper Park as well, which I did not mention. That's the park that's behind the school. I also did not mention that one earlier. So specifically, I was mentioning those 3 parks because that is the limit of the funding that I had available this year to make those purchases, and we will evaluate park furniture for the other parks as additional funding comes in.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Orr?
Ms. Icky, maybe you can talk to the law director. I don't know what the parameters would be around spending city tax dollars on a non-city owned park. I would imagine there's some restriction there, because that could be tantamount to putting something in Walgreens parking lot. You know what I mean? It's another business's property. So I would speculate that we can't spend money, tax dollar money, in that park. I don't know, but we can check into it.
Is it the one that's rented from school,
From the Clover Nook Home for the Blind.
Home for the Blind?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Yes.
Have anyone discussed that with the Clovernook Center for the Blind about resourcing a park, or?
No, we lease the park from them every year. We have
we lease this
for,
park.
thank you, since 1974,
Oh,
so
we
a
lease
very
it.
long time.
Wow.
It is only a lease arrangement. We do not own the park. So if it is something that council would want to make permanent, then we're going to get into real estate negotiations. So keep that in mind if that is the desire of council. If it isn't, we could look at the lease and see what it says, because I don't even know. I'd have to pull it up and see if what the parameters in terms of what we're allowed to do. And it may just be fields. I don't know. I just don't know.
I have a question,
Ms. Blank?
and it sounds really weird, but we're leasing the park, but we can't fix it up. It's going downhill, but why are we leasing it if we can't fix it up? Is it just, so what is the use of the park?
The
'cause it
green
sounds-
space. The kids use the green space for football.
Yeah, I saw that.
And there is a playground. Actually, the
I've
playground
been back there
equipment
before.
was,
Donated.
the city didn't pay for that either. It was through a Kaboom grant. And then North College Hill Volunteers put it together.
So it seems kind of oxymoron that you're renting someplace that you can't keep up. Does that make sense? Yeah, just,
It's one of those things I
It's
think
a
falls under
liability
the
thing or something with,
category of we've always done it that way.
Well, and
Right.
Right.
if I could bring a
Right.
little history into this, at one point,
Resort.
we were leasing all of that property, all the way back through Northbrook. And a couple years ago, council decided that we didn't have enough money to do all of that. And that's when we actually canceled, I believe, all of the lease. And then Clover Nook came back and said, if you want to just lease this little portion, and then they renegotiated the price. So I think that's where we are today.
But wouldn't it be a benefit to the school for the city to be leasing it?
I'm not following your thought process. The school?
Yeah, so the property belongs to the School of the Blind, and they're leasing it to the city of North College Hill. So wouldn't it be beneficial for them to allow the city of North College Hill to develop the property, since they don't have the money
I'm sure they don't care.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the legal implications of using city tax dollars, money that's collected for the city to be used on privately owned property. There's a conflict there.
That's what we're doing now.
Right, but
Matt-
Using taxpayer dollars to lease it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, maybe it's a way that we don't need taxpayer dollars.
but we're
Madam
not
Chair,
paying for improvements on it, and that would be the difference.
Madam Chair,
Ms.
if I
Clem.
may. There's a lot of question marks here that we flat out just cannot answer until we
Okay.
look at the paperwork. So
Okay,
I
duly
think we should
noted, Mr.
probably table this until we have more information and can
Okay.
come back with some concrete answers to some of these questions. But we
Okay.
just don't have all that information right now, unfortunately.
Nice for you guys to look at.
Okay.
So I think we can put that in the parking lot for a future committee discussion, I think, once we have additional, the appropriate information to be able to
Is
answer
somebody
these
gonna
questions.
look into this, though?
Okay, duly noted, Mr. Wilson. Just duly noted. We, loud and clear. Okay. Anybody else have any more questions about the parks or recreation for Ms. Clear? Thank you, Ms. Clear. Okay, next on the agenda is issue 2 marijuana dispensary moratorium. I reached out to Mr. Dieters to pull me up a state legislation. So he sent me a sample legislation on a moratorium on cannabis dispensaries. And the purpose of this is, the purpose of the moratorium will temporarily pause the ability for business to obtain permits from the city to begin the process of opening a facility related to adult use cannabis, while enabling the city the time it needs to adapt measures council and the mayor may deem appropriate to carry out the will of the voters in an orderly manner. So I sent this, I want to discuss this dispensary, cannabis dispensary thing. This order will only suspend it for 9 months. And I think that we need the 9 months to consider what we're going up against, because they still coming up with rules and regulations on how to distribute this and the rules and regulations on dispensaries. I think we just need enough time to get ordinances together, how far away from these schools these places need to be currently. So I'm just asking that we discuss this legislation and take it to Mr. Gravers for an ordinance.
So do you already have an ordinance? Can we, did you send it to
well,
us?
No,
Okay.
it's not, Mr. Dieters, it's not printable because it goes to Mr. Gravers. So it's not printable. He didn't send it to me printable.
Thank you,
Really?
Ms. Clear.
Is it, can I read it? Should I read it or?
You can, pardon me, if I can get you a copy, I think he copied me on it. If you're not able
Yeah,
to
I'm not able to print.
find it, I can make sure it's emailed to you all.
Sent it in words. He didn't send a PDF, so I, you know.
Okay. I can send it out to everybody for your consideration.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Blight,
are you asking us to, the city to suspend any decisions
Just
that we make until? the
currently,
state's
right
done?
now,
Is
yes,
that what you're
coming up
saying?
with all these rules and regulations, because at this point, we just don't know what kind of rules they're gonna put on this thing, what kind of regulations. So just to be on the safe side, North College Hill, I just think we just need to get a handle on this and talk about it, you know, where these places should go or where they should be, you know, if they do come to North College Hill. So,
Makes sense.
yeah, so currently, that's all I'm asking right now.
I think that's reasonable.
Think it's reasonable? Because I have to get agreement with the committee to send it to,
Consensus.
I agree.
you agree,
Mhm.
Mr. Watt?
Absolutely.
Okay, okay. And let me see if I see some more on it.
May I ask what the plan would be going forward? Like, we will, once the moratorium would hypothetically get passed by council, then what would be our plan to have something in place
In
or to
place.
talk about before the 9 months is up, or
Right.
what is our,
To fix our ordinances.
like a
We probably
stopgap,
have to
right?
change
So-
ordinances or whatever we need to do to protect our city. So this is only a 9-month
Moratorium.
moratorium. This is only for 9 months. So this is, I think it's just going to July of next year, if I'm not mistaken. But it just gives us time to just listen to what we working with, what we need to know to start changing ordinances if we have to.
okay.
So that's it. So, okay. Any more questions? I don't know why I couldn't. Okay.
So that did pass committee to go on to council? Is that
Yes.
what I heard?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, next on the agenda is old business. Anybody have any old business? I want to talk, I have some old business. I want to talk about the hazardous household waste event that we had. We talked to we talked to Gage Bradford on this, and he asked us our opinion on everything, and it went so well. So we thinking about it, having it maybe twice a year, and adding maybe a couple of things, paper shredding, and
Tires.
and RX tires. Yes, tires, shredding, and RX medicals and some pharmaceutical things. Since it went so well, so we'll be scheduling the next date, maybe summer or spring or something. So stay tuned. Stay tuned and look forward to it. Anybody have any questions about that? Oh, and I have some old business also. I have been getting this welcome letter together. And currently, I got some advice from some people on the letter. Just don't seem bullied when you write a letter. Make it seem welcome and nice, and you can't put on there mow your damn grass. Or, ooh, excuse my language, but So we try to.
I love it.
So I was informed we have to keep it really nice.
We coming for you.
We coming for you, So, right, So I just wrote up a little thing that the city of North College Hill would like to welcome you to the neighborhood and be the first to welcome you to your new home. We are pleased to have you in the community. So it's just something at first. I'm trying to get up there at the beginning. I was just thinking about maybe a simple card instead of something maybe that they can kind of put on the refrigerator instead of a letter. Because, you get a letter, people stick it in a drawer or something. So I'm
They
just
only
thinking
read
about something.
half of it. And
Yeah.
Then put it
They
back in
don't
an
even open the envelope.
too.
Exactly. So I was just thinking about maybe a card or something simple.
What
Instead
do you
of
think if we did like a two-prong attack and have a letter and a magnet for the refrigerator that has like your important phone numbers, like the city city administrator, the non-emergency police number?
Because so far I have directory. Oh, and Ms. Zorb, I need to talk to you about the RETA taxes if this gonna go on here. Are you over the RETA taxes? Are you knowing?
Yes.
Okay, because that's gonna
Just
be a
not Ms.
part
I
of.
was going to say she called you Zorb.
Not Miss Zorb.
That's
I'm like, I don't
I'm
know.
looking at you like, what?
that's gonna be.
You had an out-of-body experience.
I was looking like, she looking down there. What she said.
I love it.
And we're going to have emergency numbers. Well, you know what? I had pets on here because there's a lot of people in North College Hill that own pets.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people. So I think that'd be a little detrimental to kind of throw that on there. And lawn care, local services, I think that'd be a little lengthy, local services. I think that'd be a little lengthy. Other than that, just maybe a card or something, but I am working on it.
Postcard,
Yeah, so that's all business.
like the 5x7, the half a page postcard.
Mm-hmm.
More on it, maybe.
Well, I know in the past, I don't know how long ago, quite long ago, I was in an organization and we sent out a trifold,
Similar to that.
not.
Is
not,
it something like this one?
It would be
Yeah.
very close to that.
That would be nice, yeah. that would
This is a lot of paper. You know what I mean? Something like what a lot of this.
Oh, that opened up. That's too much.
Just half of it.
I think she meant 8.5 by 11.
Yeah, don't let it open
Yeah.
up.
Okay,
Or a
14.
14.
11 trifold.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Stop it right there.
okay. Mm-hmm, okay.
Yeah.
I'll be surprised how we keep that stuff around the house. Like, oh, if you go look at
Mr. Wilson, you have to step to the mic.
you'll be surprised how many of us keep that stuff in the house. Like, don't just knock it because y'all like, oh, it's a lot of pay. It's not. It's actually helpful because at times I forget, and then I can run to the drawer where I put all them papers and flyers, and look through it, and guess what I find? That information that I'm looking for. So don't knock it before you try it.
Oh, you mean other than the magnet?
So the
it's
magnet,
supposed to
but the magnet will be an additional help to me and individuals that's at my age. You know what I'm saying? Because when we send kids to go look for things, they never find it, and it be right in their face. And the magnet is definitely gonna be in my face and they face too. Because guess what? They always find anything and everything in the refrigerator.
Oh, well, thank you, Mr. Wilson, for that.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Watt.
Thank you. I do know that the police and fire, they hand out magnets for their non-emergency number. Of course, everybody knows the emergency number, but if we could work with them, well, then we can't use the trifold if we're putting magnets in there. But if we put it in an envelope and they feel magnets, they're bound to open it.
Mm-hmm.
Free.
I
So-
never got a magnet from the police and fire
Uh,
department.
Really?
No, no.
I have one.
We ain't live
The
on the right
magnets
street.
we wouldn't have to mail the magnets. They could be at like our fall festival or something, a North College Hill
Oh,
magnet.
that's-
Well, that's an idea.
No, then you
Well-
wouldn't have to mail it.
Well,
Or any-
these are for new,
public
this is,
event.
For new people.
these are new residents.
Oh,
This is the
new
well-
people.
Yeah, this is just a welcome, just to inform them about important phone numbers and things in the, when
You
it
have them available for those who might not ever receive one, attend the fall festival. and
Well, this
pick it
was
up.
through our Servants CH back in the 70s and 80s.
That's me.
I was highly involved with it then, but
I never got.
all the people that worked with me on that, I'm the only one that,
Mm-hmm.
well, there's one more that's
Station.
alive. The rest of them are not.
I have a refrigerator full of mayonnaise. Okay,
I say Vegas and stuff.
okay, any more questions about that? About the old business? New business? Okay, no business, it's no new business, but I'd like to talk about something. This weekend, not this weekend, on December 7th, we went to a We Thrive nomination awards for the community. They were giving out awards for the community. And it was, and we nominated Mimi for a We Thrive nomination. Out of 24 people that were nominated, it was really nice. The food was good. It was really nice. It was almost like the Academy Awards. You know how you sit at the table and they have, and the nominee is. I was like, wow, I feel like I'm at the Academy Awards or something. It was really nice, you know. But she won.
Wow.
She won,
Yes,
and
she
the
should.
city of North College Hill was recognized that day. It was recognized, and it was community Addison, Reading, Delhi, Montgomery, Lockland, Gulf Manor, Mount Healthy, Reading, Forest Park,
Wow.
Winton Woods, Evendale, Wyoming, Whitewater Township, Amberley Village, Lincoln Heights. It was a lot of communities there. And I see here, North College Hill has been with Breathe Thrive for 6 years. So they recognized the 6 years that we were there, and we were recognized as she won. So,
Terrific.
yeah,
Congratulations
that was
to
a
Mimi.
good day. That was a good day. But anybody have anything else?
The tree.
Oh, yeah, the tree. Thank you, Miss Nichols, for the bowls. And thank you, Administrator Iki, for the lights and everything. Well, it looks really nice. We got out there and decorated it, and some was falling off. We got a couple of casualties, but we put them back up there.
I saw it when I came in. I was like, oh, it's lights and everything.
Yeah, yeah. So we thank y'all for that. And thank you, Marshall, my co-chair. And thank you, Mr. Ward and Ms. Zorb and Ms. Blight for showing up. This is the last meeting of this year. And I just want to say thank y'all. And let's start a better next year, 2024. Let's do that. And with that, we adjourn the
Well,
meeting.
before we close the
Oh.
meeting, I would like to applaud
Mr.
you.
Watt.
Kudos to you for being so brand new on council and stepping up and taking this position and making it so creative and moving forward. Yeah,
Thank you.
kudos to you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I got a good crew. Okay, with that, the meeting be adjourned. And that's it.
And we are starting our budget and finance meeting. It looks like we have some supportive documents in front of us, as well as the agenda. I did not send you the minutes. This week was my finals week, to be honest, and I just was working on things last minute. So I will send them out later. And first on the agenda is December budget update.
Well, what you have in front of, I'll start, and then I'm going to turn it over to Michelle. What you have in front of you is a report, but it's really 2 in 1. So your first sheet is the condensed version. It's the fund report that will give you the fund balances as we are through October. So we have not closed November yet, so this would be through October 31st as of now, but we still have a number of changes we need to make. The good news, if you look at the receipts year to date, we have collected more or brought in more than what we have expended by about 1.2-ish million. So we're doing good from that perspective. When you flip those pages, you are going to see a lot of negative numbers. And this is because we are still putting things in the right buckets that we have been talking about for the last several months. So some of these changes have been complete. We still have a little ways to go. But again, the good news from the fund level is that there aren't many negatives. The one you see under the waste collection is because we aren't getting our Rumpke payment until tomorrow for October, right? They missed a payment. So we show a negative that, but that'll be corrected by tomorrow when we get the funds. But it wouldn't be reflected until the end of December. So I think
I would say, I know you guys are just getting this report and sort of just digesting it, but on the surface, I kind of want you guys, if you have questions, I can talk through any of it. I can talk a lot, but I want you guys, I just kind of want to hear your questions, your concerns, your comments. If you want to ask how things are going. I mean, I've been here since, let's call it really August, and you guys brought me in to help to get things where they should be. So are there, as you're looking at it, you know, to Jennifer's point, there's a lot of negatives that you're seeing when we look line by line. And a lot of that is because when Debbie and I both started, we made a commitment that we're going to pay things where they should be paid, right? Instead of where we have money. So in doing that, so for example, if you're buying some cleaning supplies for this building, but there's no money left in a line item, the cleaning supply line item, for example, in the past, it would just be like, oh, well, there's money over here in insurance. Well, then that doesn't allow us to really track how we're spending money. So what we did starting in August was we put the expenses where they should be, which then is going to push some of these numbers negative. So what you're going to see at your next council meeting, so in a week, you will see what we'll call our year-end cleanup. You guys are maybe used to seeing that. And so that will take care of these negatives, right? So it'll look like supplemental appropriations. I'm sorry, go ahead.
We should be seeing our cleanup in budget and finance before we put it to council floor.
Well, I mean, you're seeing it. What you're seeing here, all these negatives will now become zeros. So it's not probably in the format you're used to.
No, I don't have any issue with the format. I understand what you mean, but I guess in the cleanup document, what I would be looking for is, and this is appreciated, by the way, because for me, it helps me to be able to track where the spending is. So it helps to better look at the budget for 2024. This is what I would have liked to seen prior to getting 2024's budget, so we can kind of appreciate where we should allocate or help to support where more money goes, because the spending is higher in some of these buckets, hence why they're negative. But in the cleanup budget or cleanup document, we would like to, or I think it would be appropriate, I don't want to put the we on there, it would be appropriate for us to see where you're taking that money from if you're putting it somewhere else. I totally agree with the theory and what's going on here, but to see where is it being pulled from and where you're putting it. So we can totally, because that should be a part of 2023 cleanup so that we can deal with that. And then that should help us further project for 24.
So to address your comment, and we actually talked about this today. What I have done, I've done it a couple of ways, not here, obviously, but in past jobs. You can move appropriations. So we could look at a line item and say, we've got money here, let's move it down to here. In a situation where we have this many negatives, that's going to be very cumbersome and time consuming for all of us, for you guys, for us. So what we talked about is doing supplemental, so additional appropriation. And let me kind of explain what that looks like and how that finishes out your year. So you're not going to reduce line items. So as you look through some of these, you can see that some have $70,000 or $12,000 of unspent that's still sitting there. So what we would do is we would add, anywhere you see a negative, we're going to bump those to make them zeros. Okay? Everything else is going to stay as it is, because at year end, you get, let's call it a reset, right? Because we're going to start with a brand new budget in 2024. So even though you might have $1 million in appropriations that were not spent, budget that was not spent in 2023, at the end of the year, as long as it's not on a purchase order, as long as we haven't promised it to a vendor under a purchase order situation, that number goes to zero. So does that make sense?
It does make sense, but it doesn't give us the in-depth picture. Like I remember specifically Mary Jo saying when we were talking about moving away from line items that we weren't going to do that just yet. Because, like, for example, if we had a major bucket or a spending in 2023 that we will not have in 2024, we don't want to just zero it out and then project that same amount in the following year. So by us having the responsibility of looking through the 2024 budget, I feel like it's hazy to be able to see where, when we look at the budget, there's no foreknowledge of, hey, we really need to keep this at this. Like, we've spent lots of meetings saying, why is there an extra $12,000 here? Why is there not money here? You know, at one point there was like money in a pool, on a line item for the pool, which we no longer have the pool. So we've done a lot of like reworking the appropriations and making sure. So I want to make sure that, and so one of the asks in the past have show us those big buckets where those lines are changing significantly. And I guess I just want to make sure that we can see that.
And I'm just going to tell you my challenges from my perspective, having been here 5 months. The challenges in that are, we know that the 2023 budget, for example, we just found today, all of these line items, or all of these budgets have FICA. People are in pension, they're not paying FICA except if you're a part-time firefighter, but they all have that. So I'm saying that to kind of give you an idea of, we have a lot in the 2023 budget that we know buckets are not correct. We don't certainly want to carry that over into 2024, and we're not carrying that over into 2024. That's a lot of what's corrected. So you're going to see things look a little bit different because we're working really hard to get those correct. It's tough. We're going backwards to the beginning of 2023 as well to try to correct the expenses line by, and we're doing a lot of adjustments on expenses to make sure that they're in the right bucket, but we're not going to hit every single, that's the hard part. We're doing as much as we can to get those correct. The 2024 budget is good line by line. It's not perfect because we're working with imperfect numbers to start.
Exactly.
And Debbie nor I or Jennifer were here when this budget was put together. So we're really trying to take this and, you know, based on what I've done, what Jennifer's done, what Debbie's done, what the city, what we can see as actuals, make it as good as we can get it. And you know, with the goal of even during the year, making those adjustments, you know, we would come back to you guys and say, oh gosh, there's something here in this budget that doesn't make sense. It needs to be moved to this line item. So I think 2024 is still going to be a little bit of a growth curve, learning, moving kind of year. But, you know, with a whole lot of transparency and a whole lot of discussions with council, I think we can all get on the same page. It's just going to take us a bit of time, sadly, to get there, and has.
So then go ahead.
May I? So this is still on topic, but a whole different line item. This item must have escaped me when we looked at it the last time or in the beginning of the year, because you guys weren't here. According to the records now, it states that the city center, number 402 on that first cover page, was negative 16, almost 16.5. And now we're looking at 149,000. So what
Yeah.
happened?
No, I can answer this one. This one's actually came up in the audit. Yeah. So there is a payment. Is it the roof? Am I saying that right? The roof in this building? A debt payment associated with that. So what should happen is it's the correct fund. It can pay that, but that fund doesn't have an income source outside of the general fund giving it the money to make that payment. So it makes sense that it's in its own, but the piece that got missed was that general fund transferring the money to make that payment. So to clean this up, that's what you're going to see happen, is that general fund's going to have to give that money, fix it, and then it'll go to zero.
So I just want to clarify now, because this is all caving in now. So it's being paid, but just not out of the correct fund.
Well, it's out of the correct fund, but that fund, it wasn't funded. That's a
fund
perfect
Oh,
way
it
to say
wasn't
it.
funded.
Right.
Well,
Yep.
What was
That
it
could-
funded? The roof?
the city center
The city
levy.
center line
In the
item.
budget,
city-
it wasn't
City center
funded.
fund, the
Right.
401 on the first page.
So,
I saw that. Okay, so that's the
402,
402, right?
Yep.
And wait a
Yep.
minute.
So what should have happened?
402.
Yeah, what should have happened in the 2023 budget should have, we would say, oh, well, we've got $49,000 or whatever the payment was going to be in that particular year. And that should have been a transfer from the general fund to cover that payment. Because this fund isn't creating revenue. So it's
Correct.
never going to have money coming into it. And that's not abnormal. This is
Right.
how cities across the state do this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That was the piece that was missed. So the 2023 budget didn't have that piece in it to pay that, to fund it, to pay
Okay,
that debt.
so I know the funding didn't come from 402, but the bills were paid.
Correct.
Okay,
So we'll clean that one up too.
thank you.
But that bills, are the bills paid from the levy?
For the city center?
Not the roof.
There's no.
Oh, city center. That's why I
Yeah.
was trying to make sure I had
Yeah.
the right line. Okay,
Yeah, so 402.
got it. So that's why I was, okay, the roof.
The roof, correct.
R-O-O-F. Okay,
Correct.
okay. And then, so there is a loan out for that, right?
Yeah, we have
Okay.
one more payment. Next year is the final on that.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So my follow-up to that is, in the 2024 budget, which I do not have in front of me, and I apologize, I should have, we have, we'll say $150,000 in, we're funding that line item in 2024 to head
Yes.
this off,
Correct.
with whatever the ending balance is
Yeah.
for that loan.
That is correct. So we'll clean this up at the end of this year, so you'll end the year in this fund with a zero.
Okay.
And then next year, you'll see a revenue that comes in equal to the expense,
Thank you.
so.
Imagine that, like it should be.
So what else can I answer? Did I answer the questions?
From my perspective, from this first page, there was nothing that stood out to me. Because everything else you said previous to that makes sense. And I just thought, how could that be?
Yeah,
But you explained it very well, thank you.
you're welcome.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So can I need to better understand what you were saying about the cleanup ordinance. So will the cleanup ordinance include every one of these negative line items, or it will not?
It will,
Okay,
yep.
so we're gonna have a 5-page long cleanup ordinance.
What is the transfers? Is that the total at the top of page 1, 2?
Madam
Would be-
Chair,
Oh, I'm sorry.
so Michelle, are you saying at the end of the day, at the end of the year, all these negatives, it will start at zero?
That is, on the second report we were talking about, you're obviously not going to start at zero on that first because we've got money. So that's a good thing. Yeah.
Well,
So that very last
Okay.
column on your first page that you're looking at, that very last column is, and I'm not going to say it's exact because we do still have to fix a lot of the payroll posting, which we're going to fix for November. So when, we can send this report via email for November that you would see. I would say in the next couple of weeks or next week or so, she'll have that done and we can send that to everybody so they can see it. And once that payroll's in there, I'm going to say that unencumbered, that very last column is going to be about $6 million-ish. Depends on how much that payroll changes that number because it's expenses that weren't posted. So
Yes. So I just need clarification. When you say these items are going to be zeroed out, you're just not zeroing them out. You're actually allocating them in the correct areas.
that is correct. We are adjusting your budget. Your that beginning number, it's not even beginning, you can change it throughout the year. There's no rules against that. So we're just adjusting that budget number so that council has given authority to spend these dollars and we get it. And then it'll get you to zero where you're not spending more than what the budget said. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So it's not going to like zero anything out. It's just going to make it so your budget equals your expenses.
Right.
Or better, or your budget's higher then. So,
Madam Chair,
Yes.
yes, but say
for
it again, I forgot.
the top, what is that?
Oh, the
negative?
transfers? That would be anything that the general fund sent out to any other funds. And I don't know what that number, I can get what that 95,000 is. I don't know off the top of my head of what it,
So if it's sent it out, you said from general,
from general to another fund. Mm-hmm.
so you're going to find out what
Yes.
those were?
Yep.
Okay.
I can find out and we'll report back. Absolutely.
So it's pretty much, the negatives are pretty much what was already spent.
It's what was already spent.
So I agree that it is in a different format, but it's the same understanding though. Because we have, and I don't want to focus backwards, but what I'm trying to get to is the forwardness of it. So the thing that I want to make sure, because we got the 2024 budget without having something like this. So how, and I'm asking your professional opinion, how can we, with wisdom, say that we should be allocating here or here or here if, in the 2024 budget, if we're not completely sure what we're spending? I understand that you're going to zero out these negatives by allocating the general fund in some areas or wherever those buckets should have come from. But that still doesn't give us a finite of where we were from last year to this year and what we have in the plus. Because when you say salaries, which I know weren't posted, in the tune of $6 million, and then this ending balance number is 6.7, that looks like we're super close and we don't have as much money left over.
Salaries weren't posted to the tune of about $500,000, so only
Okay.
500. Sorry, I might have confused that.
Maybe I heard wrong.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
so it's about $500,000 that we have to post. They were posted, they just weren't posted correctly.
Okay.
So in terms of getting comfortable, what I can tell you is what we did, the three of us, Debbie, myself, Jennifer, we went, and this is how I've always budgeted. Through salaries, through the benefits, I do line by line for each person. What does each person that works here cost the city, plus their benefits? So we have a pretty good idea. And then we estimate, obviously in union contracts, we're going to know the raise amounts. So that's a really easy one to get. But then we estimate, like 3%. Our employee's going to get 3% raises, maybe more, maybe less, but we give it a guess. So our salaries and benefits are all based on who actually works here and sits here, and do we have plans to add people or any of that stuff. So we can feel pretty good about those numbers being pretty close. I mean, not exact, certainly things fluctuate, but they're good numbers. The rest of the things we did is we went through, we had a handful of months under our belt of us all being here. And we know where utilities should be paid. We're correcting, we're fixing. So we took those things into account when we were going through the 2024 budget. We didn't really even use too much of what you're looking at here as, well, this is what they put in last year. We tried to say, well, what's right, where it should be, correct.
Well, I understand that, but the only way to determine what's right is to look at what we spent, right?
That is
With the exception of those big buckets that are like one-time costs.
right. And so what we could do is we could take July, August, September, even some of October of what we spent and project based on those, not based on what we don't know what happened at the beginning of the year where things were paid. Does that make sense? So we tried to look at what we knew based on how we were doing the things and putting them in the correct buckets and project from there. If we've got 4 months, we project it out to 12 on utilities and that sort of thing. So you're going to see, there's certainly going to be some areas next year that we're going to be like, whoops, we missed that one, or what, and that's to be expected when we're in a situation like this. But you're going to see, I think, a whole lot more accuracy in what you have seen in the 2024 numbers. You're going to feel a lot more comfortable in those numbers being more accurate than what you've had.
I guess, and thank you for the explanation. So my plea then to council is this. And I'm assuming that everyone understands what she's saying. I don't want to I believe that you all do. So if we are trying to decipher or decide on a 2024 budget, wouldn't it be in our best interest to not say, unless we absolutely know it is necessary, we need to spend this, we need to spend that, we need to spend that, because, and then have some big ticket items where we say, okay, we would like to do these following things, but these other things are absolutely necessary, so that we can start getting a clearer picture, because even though they're doing a good work, clearly they're not done. And you can't, it's like spending money when you don't know what you have. And I don't want to put us in that position. I feel like as council, we waited this entire year to see these finances come into a better space. And if they're doing that, then our budget should reflect the change. We can't approve a budget with ghost things as you all feel that we've done in the past. So if we're projecting projects to get done, it should be the necessary things until we can get the budget solidly enough to say, yes, this is where we want to do that. We can always do that later in the year. We don't have to put those things out there in the beginning of the year. What that does is it gives us clarity to move forward. Although administration is working very diligently to get us to a good place where we understand the numbers, I do not feel good about spending $100,000 if I only have 102, but I don't know what I have because I haven't gotten all of the finances. And so that's what I was kind of hoping for you all to take a look at the budget and clearly make those distinctions. Like, here, I know we have to put room in the budget for this particular building. We're almost finished, which thank God, we're almost finished paying for the roof. We have one more year of that. But regardless of whether we are paying for the roof or not, we have to do something with the building. I don't care if we don't agree on what, even if we flatten it and do nothing with it, something has to be allocated for that. If we don't, it's just gonna be in a dilapidated state and we're gonna have to do something regardless.
Madam
So-
Chair, just, I butt in for just a moment. So we cannot put, it doesn't make sense to put money in a budget for renovations or tear down or whatever because we don't know what we're going to do with it. We do know that the bid that came in 2 years ago was extremely expensive. It was over $2 million to just refurbish it, not tear it down and do over. So I don't know how we can put money in a budget if we don't know what we're going to do.
That's what I'm agreeing to. I'm saying, but we need to come up with a list of big ticket items that we want to get accomplished. Everyone knows this. If you don't plan, money goes this way, that way as things come up. So what I'm saying is we have to kind of be conservative at the beginning of the year until we get a better sense of what we have, and then we can go forward. I don't want to slow or stop any projects that are already in lieu, but maybe just kind of be a little bit tight on things that have not yet started with in a hierarchical order. We need to do this, we need to do this, we need to do this. One of the things that I believe should be on the list is this building. The other thing that I know that's already started is the splash pad, so we have to just naturally build that in. But I guess I'm saying I don't want to make any big moves until we're solid in this, because it's just delaying healthy projects, and then I feel like you're chipping away at little things, and I don't want to do that. I feel like if we are responsible financially, that's what this committee is about, then we need to consider that.
So,
Madam Chair.
May I? Madam Chair? So I understand what you're saying about we need to be fully, we need to be convinced that this budget is correct. But like Michelle said, this 2024 year, they're still going to have issues getting everything cleaned up. I don't think we're going to see, well, you'll never see a crystal clear budget because there's always something but we're not going to see the outages and how bad it was before after this year is over. So to prepare for anything huge, because I would think that even at this point, we're not really sure what our beginning balance is going to be for 2024. Is that correct?
Yes.
So it's hard to disperse those funds if that balance isn't accurate. So I don't think we can move forward on any huge products until we actually get a better beginning balance.
And I also agreed, which is why I'm saying even little stuff like $50,000 here, 50,000, you can't, and I'm going to pick on this, but I don't really mean this specific thing. It's just the thing that I can remember us talking about. And I looked at some things in the budget, but this is one we solidly talked about, like cameras in the parks. Even though that is important and we do want that, unless we're going to get a grant for that, I don't want to spend $50,000 when we need to spend $150,000 towards something else. If $50,000 3 times chips away at $150,000. So if we don't have enough money to do, that's why I'm saying let's put some things in a hierarchical order. Hey, we really need to do this. We do it. There are some things we need to do, and there are some things we want to do. Let's put those wants on a back burner. Take those out of the 2024 budget until we get the things that we need to do done first. Because without us knowing a solid beginning balance, until we can't spend money that we do or do not have. What you're going to do or what you're going to find is you'll spend money on things that you don't necessarily need, and then you don't have the money to get the things done. You'll spend money on things you want, but you don't have the money to get the things done you need. And so that's what I'm asking us to take a look at. I'm not trying to delay us any further. The projects that are already started, let's continue those on. The ones that have yet to be started, let's put those as a priority so that Jennifer can and Michelle can shape the 2024 budget around those things. That's why I said in the beginning, can we be conservative with what we do so that gives them an opportunity to continue to develop this very fluid document. As we discussed last year, we all know that this document is fluid and constantly moving. As Erica so eloquently said, it is a living, breathing document that's always changing. It's always been that way. Whether mistakes are being corrected or at reallocations, it's constantly changing. It's living and breathing.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So I'm just trying to wrap this up. So are you suggesting that we don't approve the budget that was presented to us?
I think the budget needs to change to suit more of what we need as a city. But Jennifer has not gotten any feedback.
Hang on a minute. So, well, okay. So what if we did something different? Because we've got one more council meeting for the end of this year, unless we plan on having a whole bunch of special meetings.
Special meetings.
Which, we all got holidays to celebrate, so we got a lot of tight schedules for the rest of the year. We'll just say that. So what if we tried to attack, because I'm not sure that in principle I disagree with what you're saying. I agree with what you're saying. I don't want to go down the avenue of redoing the whole budget at the 11:30th hour. It's not even the 11th hour. We're at 11:30.
Yeah.
So where I'm going with that is to say, is there another way via ordinance or resolution that we can say, we can tell administration no spending unless it's, and then put some criteria around that?
I'm not opposed to that at all. I think if we do that, it needs to be temporal for this year, 2024 only. The other
It can
thing
even
is-
just be for the first 3 months.
The other thing that I think is pertinent, it's not anyone's fault that we're here in this 12th hour, because this was not ready. We were not getting everything we needed, and I'm not blaming anyone. I'm saying that we are where we are because of what has had to progress throughout the year. Unfortunately, this is where we are. This is our reality. We cannot change that, but we do need to walk with integrity and walk in what is right next, whether it means lots of meetings or putting forth an ordinance. I am exhausted with thinking about this budget, looking at this budget, wanting to protect the interests of the vision for the city to do something and be better. I'm exhausted. I don't know if you all carry that burden outside of here, but I do. And I'm not saying that you don't.
Madam Chair, I'd like to say too that I don't think we were blindsided with this budget. We were given this, and then what they said they're gonna work from this, and there's only minor changes from this to this one. So it's not like we were blindsided and they said, here's the budget. I think they've been giving us information all along.
They have not.
I said I think. I'm not asking what you think. But I do think too that to ask of council now to find some big ticket items to put money towards, that should have been done in July.
We didn't have
You
enough
can't
information to get
Well,
it in
we
July.
don't have it today either.
You're right, which is why I'm proposing what I'm proposing.
To no fault of theirs.
I'm not saying it's their fault. I'm saying what is. I am saying that we have not gotten the right documentation up until now. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm saying you all have been here just like I've been here. We have not gotten anything.
Okay,
This is
I
the
think you
first.
need to correct yourself. We have been getting the right information, but it continues to change because they're finding more and more errors from the past.
We have not gotten an up-to-date monthly report. This is our first one for the entire year.
It's not really a monthly report, but
You're right.
we asked for monthly reports in the past and it didn't bother you. Now all of a sudden you want it when it's
didn't have
impossible.
valuable
I've never
information
not
in
been
here.
bothered by not having a monthly report, but what I can say to date is we got a report that serves us through October, is what they said.
Correct.
And so we are looking from October on. I am not, the only thing I can do is what we are dealing with right now.
Okay.
And what we have right now is documentation that we just received tonight. We literally just got it tonight.
I
And
was
it is
here.
very different than that document.
Ms. Michelle, how different is this document from this document?
Is that, which one are you holding? Is that the budget?
Yeah.
Um,
I know there's gonna be some changes. You even said that when you gave us this.
yeah, and the thing, the biggest impact, what you're looking at here, what you got tonight is gonna have on that is how much money we bring forward,
Okay.
right? That is that's the big thing on this, the takeaway, if you will. How much money are we bringing into the next year to spend? And I think Jennifer has very clearly told us all our receipts, even in 2024, because that was sort of where she and I were at. Okay, well, we don't know what we're bringing in terms of how much money are we going to have left at the end of 2023, because we don't have a clear picture. We're thinking it's going to be around $5.5 million. Okay, but we don't know that with 100% certainty, and I wouldn't sit here today and tell you we do. But what we did when we did this budget is we said our expenses have to stay under what we know we're going to get next year, because then you're safe. You're safe in terms of what you're spending and how much you're spending, regardless. If you came forward with $5, okay, that's not going to happen. I'm very, very much exaggerating. But if that's all you came forward with, you're still going to be fine next year, unless something really horrible happened, and then we're all not fine next year. But so we approached the 2024 budget in that manner because we were at such a disadvantage in terms of kind of the financial situation we all walked into and are trying to untangle. So, if that gives you a little bit more peace of mind, I will tell you, we also were very diligent and deliberate in the 2024 budget with not putting big things in it, not putting expenses that are not completely necessary. And one of the things, even the mayor and I were talking earlier, this budget can change, and that's the beauty of Ohio law, right? You can, at any time during the year, per council's request, order, vote, motions, ordinances, you can make the changes throughout the year. So one of the things the mayor and I were talking about is if there are projects that you guys know you want to do, but we don't know exactly right now that we should, let's say it gets to be April and we're like, okay, we have a good picture of what we have. And I think this is kind of the point you're making. Then we come to council at this meeting and we say, okay, here's a project we want to do. We need to do a new appropriation, pass the contract, get all of that project going. But we're not going to include it in the beginning of 2024 budget because we just don't know. And I think we're saying the same thing.
We are.
Because that's the beauty of how this budgeting in the state of Ohio works, that it allows us to do that, so that we're not putting things in the budget that we're not really ready or sure we should be doing.
Fair. That's very much what I wanted to articulate, but with a little bit of a, I guess, more conservative approach to the 2024 budget, is making sure that we don't, I heard you say, we don't have any big ticket items in there, but do we have little items that are not yet necessary? Those are the things that I would like to make sure that we're not just, and again, this has nothing to do with current administration, but when we can't see all of those little things, we're giving up line by line, which is fair. Council does not need to micromanage that. I have always been about that. However, what it does do is it makes us, I feel insecure about approving a budget that has little things in it that take away from this or take away from that, and you don't even know what it is that we really want to do. So, like, I didn't have a conversation with you all. I know that there are some things that Mayor has said. There are some things that projectively other council members have said. We did not have that conversation to put in 2024 budget, which is, some of them are big ticket, but without, not all of them are, without actually having that conversation and then coming up with a budget, and then no one gave feedback so that Jennifer could rework. Where do we land with that? It's like, it's okay to spend this way or that way, but where did that vision come from is my concern. If you all are fine with it, I'm outnumbered. I'm one person. That's the only thing I can do is say, okay. But I just want to make sure that we are sure. I have seen this council go back and forth multiple times. Things that were in a budget, we swore up and down weren't, and then when they got spent, it was like, well, where did you get the money to do that? It was in the budget. You don't need to ask council and come back and rework something that's already in there that people have already agreed that you can spend.
May I make just a quick suggestion, just based on how I am used to doing budgets? My boss in my former job always would say, just because it's in here doesn't mean you get to spend it. So every department head knew before they could make a big purchase, okay, now $100, fine. We're not going to argue about buying toilet paper or that sort of thing, but any big expenditures, and this may be a solution, at least for 2024, would require, we would do like a staff report or something that would say, here's what I need to buy, here's why, here's the prices, here's the quotes I got for it. Yes, it's in the budget, but do we still want to do it? So just because it was in there didn't mean it was going to happen.
Fair.
So that could be your solution.
That is fair, and I am okay
How do we,
with that.
how do we get that here?
Yes. So just for example, Mr.
Because I'd be all
Jennifer's
for that.
working on that, aren't you?
Well, I think that's where the before any purchases are made, and we are cleaning up our purchasing practice because we have not done blanket POs and purchase orders before things are purchased in the past. So departments were out spending money. So they are required before we will pay it to have a purchase order in place, period, or we won't pay it.
But go ahead.
Madam Chair.
I'm not done. Can I finish,
Oh,
please?
I'm sorry.
Thank
Go
you. So I think that's one of the things. And then I think we can, if this is something the council would support, and I certainly would, I think a staff report from the departments before any major purchases, and maybe you say anything that's more than $2,500 we want to see. Mm-hmm. So we do a staff report. It comes in your packet. You can say, oh, we're buying, they're for, I'm going to pick on the cameras at the parks. And you say, that is not a priority in the first quarter of this year. No. Then we don't buy it. We don't issue a PO so we can never purchase it. I mean, that's an internal control that we can put on after you have said these are the priorities and not. And along those lines, I would remind you, we had this priority conversation a month ago. I sent you a spreadsheet. I had 2 people respond in terms of what the priorities are, and I haven't heard from the rest of you. So if you have feedback along that, it would be great to put it in the shared document so everyone can see it.
I do, and that's what I was saying. I don't think that people gave their feedback. I even remember we had just gotten the document, and I said to you all, let's wait another month to give you all an opportunity to go through it, and she didn't get any feedback. I have already told
She
her,
received feedback from 2 people.
well, 2 people, so.
2?
There's
That's-
more than 2 of us, so I'm talking.
I agree.
If you're the one that sent the feedback, I'm not talking to you. If you didn't send the feedback, and I don't mean you personally, I mean if whoever sent the feedback, then I'm not talking to you, but there are all the others that did not. I gave her the priorities for the budget when we met. Those haven't changed. I've continued to give that feedback throughout the year when we meet.
Madam Chair, how were the purchases made in the past? Like big purchases in the past?
That's to them.
You
You would have
just,
to answer that.
Madam Chair, you,
you just,
the city administrator per charter can spend up to $75,000 without the consent of council. That is in the charter.
It's 50.
That has to be, I think you motioned, and when I looked into that,
Yep.
it can't be done by motion. So it's 75.
Well, I don't do any more.
She doesn't do more than 50, but it can't be done by motion. And I believe when they did it, it was done by motion. I could not find the documentation anywhere, and then when I looked into it and asked, it has to be changed, not by motion. It couldn't be done by motion. And when it was done by motion.
I would like to remind council too that a street sweeper was bought with no one's knowledge. That's well over $75,000. And we found it sitting in the parking lot like a beautiful flower pot. And then when we asked about it, we were shut down. So I'm all for putting,
okay.
lowering that ceiling there of, I think it's 50,000. though.
Then I
think
suggest that you do a charter amendment.
We'd have to do a charter amendment.
I don't think. And that suites, I'm not going there, that's old, so.
That is, yeah, that's,
Yeah.
without, Madam Chair, sorry. I did not give feedback. And the reason I didn't give feedback was because of exactly what Ms. DeWalt just said. Nobody asked us if we were okay with a street sweeper. I'm okay with a street sweeper, but nobody asked. Nobody asked about the bathrooms. I'm okay with the bathrooms, but nobody
Yeah, that was
asked.
another one. Yeah.
You know, things happen around here all the time. And nobody asks. We just kind of show up and it's like, oh, by the way. So we're supposed to be the guardians of the galaxy or the guardians of the budget, but then it's like, oh, well, this is how this was done. So I'm like, why am I giving feedback? And it makes zero difference. So I figure if I get a bug in my bonnet about a particular thing that's done, then I will, respond to that. But we can talk until we're blue in the face, and I don't know how many times I heard, where's the street sweeper? What street did you clean? Do you have a schedule? And there was nothing, and there was nothing. And I'm like, okay, well, that wasn't a bug in my bonnet. I don't know that I've had a bug in my bonnet yet. Oh, I do have a bug in my bonnet. I do. The company that collects our taxes. That's going to be the
Rita.
bug in my, Rita. Like, why are we paying Rita $80,000 when we could pay a woman or a person $40,000 and have them sit in that office full-time and collect the taxes? Make it make sense, but whatever. But feedback, what difference does it make? Please, somebody explain to me what difference does my feedback make when these numbers change on a whim?
And so that's why I feel like this is the year to give feedback, because we are at a precipice of a change. We do have a new administrator, so this would be the year. If we're setting things right, that is my press to you all to say, let's do it.
Okay, Madam Chair, since we're all, we're all friends here now, right? So when we first all met, the mayor told the city administrator to get rid of the person who was messing everything up. That did not happen. She just ignored what the mayor said. So what difference does my feedback make if the mayor can say something and that gets ignored? My feedback means nothing. So I'm not going to take valuable time out of my day to give it.
Well, I think a proper resolve to get closer to what we are hoping for is to reduce the amount of money that can be spent without council. I personally am not interested in micromanaging, but that's not the purpose of it for me. But I would like to focus the budget towards really creating change for North College Hill. And we cannot do that until we start honing in on some of our financial things. Jennifer can tell you, my first meeting with her, I talked a lot about where we wanted to go forward. And until we get the finances together, we cannot move the mountains that we want to move. So,
Madam Chair, okay, I don't mean to give you a hard time right now.
No,
'cause
please.
I'm not really trying to give you a hard time. I promise I'm not. But I've had the pleasure of sitting next to Ms. Dewald, and we don't always agree, but I see her point of view a lot of times. And, you know, I have been sitting here and I hear, we have this whole, you know, dog and pony show where we do a salary ordinance, for example. And yet I come in here and, oh, we hired such and such. Huh? How do we do that?
which is why I'm saying what I'm saying. So like, I didn't want
Oh,
to.
let her finish,
Oh, okay,
please.
you're
I'm
right. Go
sorry.
ahead.
I'm just
I
saying,
apologize.
so why do we have these systems in place, right? If, you know, we do this whole thing and we go back and forth, like, should it be 10 cents or 15 cents, 10 cents or 15 cents? And then we come in and like, oh, by the way, we hired blah, 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 and this is how we circumvented the systems that you have in place.
I understand.
So, as some of you know, because I know,
So I think the reduction to those things is reducing the amount that any department, including administration, can spend until we have more solid numbers. My personal goal is not to micromanage, but until we can get to a more solid place with the numbers and with the finances, that we, regardless of whether the budget is there or not, let's just ask, can we have some vision on how things get spent? I don't know another way.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I don't mean to be argumentative, but I think I will be. When we had issues and we didn't know where money was going or what they were spending it on, I didn't hear any of this from council. But now that we've got a responsible person there with a responsible team to back her up, now we want to hand tie her. I don't get it. Where were you when we discussed all this in years past about things that weren't getting done or things that were being done without council's knowledge, and we should have been told?
I've been present as long as I've been chair of budget and finance. I've been very present. I don't owe you an explanation. I do feel like that I have been present. I have been accountable. I've worked hard at making sure there were strides being made with the previous administrator and this one. But I will give you transparency. There was a lot more transparency and documentation and things that I was aware of, maybe not passed on to the rest of council, that made me a little bit more easy, where I didn't have to argue to the tittle. I don't have that relationship this time, which is fine. But it's not because I don't have the relationship. It is because we are trying to get the budget back to a better place.
Madam
It
Chair.
is not personal. Yes.
She's been wanting to talk.
I
for a
apologize,
while.
Ms. Brunner.
that is so true.
Go ahead.
I don't need to talk, I'm just trying to.
No, I just wanted to say, okay. Apparently, this been going on for a while because this didn't just happen overnight.
Correct.
So, I'm quite sure, in my observation, that the administrator is probably just doing administrative work. Probably, I don't know if it's no different from the past because I'm kind of new sitting here. But my thing is, why don't we make an executive decision or something here? Because we just beating a dead horse. We just kicking a can down the road.
Back and forth.
Is what we're doing. So at this point, it has to be some kind of executive decision about the spending, what we gonna do about, or how, and we have to come up with an agreement on something.
Agreed.
You know, and I understand, like you say, you had a handle on it in the past, and you know, you probably communicated different, you know, or whatever, and it's different now. But we're just gonna have to come with somebody just gonna have to make an executive decision. We're just gonna have to agree on it, how we're gonna do this. You know, because I meant to meet with Michelle today, but like I said, because I wanted to sit down with her and go through this whole thing from last year to this year to everything. You know, I don't think nobody trying to rob, steal, or do all of that. But at this point, we gonna have to come up with something. We kicking a can down the road.
Agreed.
And, you know, so if you're unhappy with the spend or the or what's going on, like Ms. Zorb say, maybe we should just wait on the spending for a while, or I don't know, but we're gonna have to do something. We just gonna have to do it.
Which is why I said that we should reduce the amount that someone's able to spend. I personally, and Ms. Iggy can tell you, I reached out to her today and said, hey, let's set up reoccurring meetings. That is something I had prior I didn't initiate that. That is something that was a working situation before, so that we can close the gaps on us being disconnected from what is going on. It's not that I don't want the relationships that we've had in the past. It's not that I'm just now digging in and questioning. It's just that I had a little bit more clarity. But it's not just about me. I want you all to have the clarity to make good decisions too. Everyone has a little spot that they can add to why they may or may not feel comfortable with the budget. I don't want to blindly trust anyone, to be clear. And I didn't do that in the past either. So what I can say is the only way that I know is I don't want to micromanage anybody. But until we can hone in and Ms. Iki and Michelle are coming up with better numbers that we can rely on, that we reduce the spending temporarily. And then once we get on a better, not reduce the spending, but monitor it so that once we get on a better path, that can go away. Have full confidence.
Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, could I?
Oh, go
I
ahead.
apologize.
No, go ahead.
We can achieve a lot of this by policy. And, you know, we can start tomorrow. We can shut down any extraneous spending other than salary, benefits, utilities, insurance, you know, the things of you know, keeping the lights on, that sort of thing. We just won't spend any more money for the next couple of months. We won't hire anyone new. We won't initiate any projects. I mean, we will shut it down. If that is the direction you are giving me, I am fine with that. And that might be a reasonable compromise between where we are in 2023 and the numbers that we know we have and the cleanup that's still to come, and moving forward in 24, because we have to have a budget in place or folks aren't going to show up for work on January 1st and 2nd. So I think, you know, I think we can get there. I will send out a memo to the department heads tomorrow.
But there has to be some type of,
I think that's extreme.
I do too.
We might have to spend some money.
Because I don't think
Well-
that there's a whole lot of frivolous spending now.
I don't think
There's
there is
not.
either, but if
There's
there's
not. There's
some
not.
level of
just
comfort,
So
think
it's not
that's
like we're
extreme.
going
I
out.
just-
We're buying
I'm just
things.
saying, I'm saying just like big, huge things is what I'm talking about.
Right.
Like things like $60,000, $70,000, $80,000. But I'm quite sure we're gonna need something around here. We're gonna have to get some things done. I just think that's a little extreme. I
And
know you
then
can
when
shut it down and get it right.
When you shut down
But
what the administration
that's extreme.
can spend, when there's an emergency, you have to wait for it to come to the council floor in order to get that approval.
Or
I
have a
don't-
special council meeting.
Yeah,
to
but
get it
see,
on.
that, you
Madam
know, how-
Chair.
I don't think that that's all the
Madam
time
Chair.
wise.
I do want to point out that earlier on, Ms. Iki said that she has already instructed them to follow a more strict plan with the purchase orders. And there's a cap on that as well, which I don't think, was there a cap on it before and they just didn't follow it, or? I'm not sure, it doesn't matter. I don't know how that got out of whack, but she does have a handle on that. And for us to want to address the big ticket items, the 50 to 75,000, whatever that number is, we'd have to make a charter change. That takes a lot of work, but it can be done, and it's expensive. So,
I think.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Nope, nope, good.
I think to speak a little bit more maybe to the suggestion that Jennifer was giving is, can there be a policy saying me, department head, cannot spend unless I ask her permission, right?
She can set
Which is how it should.
Which is, yeah, and you can make that dollar
That
through
doesn't have
policy
anything to do with council.
a
She can
bit
set
lower.
that policy.
But if they're concerned with that 50,000, what if that number's 10? And you trust that she will see that before she approves? Is that a compromise to get where I'm hearing you all sort of say?
I mean,
So it's
quite
not a
honestly,
charter.
I
Madam
don't
Chair,
think
can I?
that's the issue myself. I think the issue is, I already explained it. I don't want to go through it again.
Thank
Never
you.
mind.
Mary Jo.
May I,
ahead.
please? So, actually, I kind of like the idea of the policy, because I think that solves what the mayor's concerned of, if council does it, it's there, it's done. If Jennifer, excuse me, Miss Icky creates a policy, she can override her policy as she sees fit. If something emergency comes up, she can override the policy and she can make the purchase and then let us know. I think
But I don't think-
the crux of this whole issue, at least for me, is we were so kept in the blind for the previous administration. We were
100%.
kept in the blind, or, I'm sorry, flat out lied to about some of the things that we'd ask questions about. I don't get that from the new administration. So I have a higher level of trust with this group than I did with the last group. And that's where I am.
So I think that solves the problem with the departments, but administration has a level of spending as well. Like Erica said, there have been times when we hire or contracted, and I think our previous administration has done it, our current administration has done it, where you sidestep coming through a salary ordinance to contract somebody out, which I don't have any issue with any person that's been contracted, but it does not give us vision on amounts of money that are bigger, that are being spent, especially when you're paying somebody a total of like $80,000 a year, if that's what it is, whether that had been previous or current. That's what I'm talking about. That ends up being a big budget. Am I not wrong? Am I wrong? If we don't have that in our salary ordinance, like right now, we don't have a finance person. We have Debbie, who was hired in for HR. So we do have Michelle, but she's contracted. So that is still money that we are not accounted for in our budget. But we don't have we have the account of not having the other person in the office right now. So we're guessing that that's an offset, which is fine. But if that's what we're going to do, we need to talk about those things.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'm just a bit confused about what you just addressed as far as, I know that Michelle's contracted, but we were told about it. I know that Debbie was hired, but we were told about it. I'm not sure where you're going with those statements. Are you saying that we weren't told about it?
No,
Or it shouldn't have happened?
We were told about the contractors after they were being brought in
With the old administration.
and current.
I don't know when it happened with the current.
Okay.
I don't either. Because
Madam
I
Chair.
have been, when we brought Michelle on, I had had multiple conversations with Mayor about if we want to make a transition in terms of getting some help in and maybe changing the way we structure the finance department. We had these conversations. And, Ms. Underwood said it earlier about not getting rid of our finance person when I first got hired. And we were having those conversations, but you can't just fire somebody without a backup plan. Who's going to pay the people?
Right.
Like, there's no one else here to do payroll until we found Michelle. So, you have to weigh with what you want and expect to happen with a reasonable timeline and a good backup plan.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
The work still has to get done.
I think to what you said about that pay, if council, if we're not paying people and we're paying a position, if that dollar amount were in the budget, then I guess Michelle would only be able to work whatever that accumulated up to that $75,000 for the year. Would that be fair?
That would be
If that's
fair.
the dollar amount that we said for that position.
I'm less concerned about when you bring people in or out, whether I know about it. I'm more concerned about sticking to the budget so that we have resources that are not misspent.
So if that dollar amount, I'm sorry, is not in there, then it needs to be added back.
It's in there under
Okay.
contracted services, not under salaries.
Salary.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
so I feel like I'm hearing two different versions here. Because at one point, you're saying we have to stick to the budget. But then before, you mentioned the whole, Erica Underwood said that this is a living, breathing document. It's always changing. So it is always changing. That's the fact. This isn't, there's nothing concrete about any budget for any city in the United States. Hell, the government. No one has a firm budget that they put out and that's the law and that's what they stick to. There's always wiggle room. So I guess I don't understand where you're coming from with this because, I mean, you said it yourself, there's wiggle room.
I think wiggle room and deliberately going in another direction outside of where we're budgeting is two different things.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
the seven of us have never agreed
Agreed.
on the budget.
Nor will we.
We are not going to start today, and I think that that's probably healthy for the city that we all don't agree. I think that is a healthy thing. And for those of you out there in TV land, the day that the seven of us agree, y'all better bum rush this building because
Right.
something is wrong.
Something's wrong.
Okay? Something is dreadfully wrong. And it could be, so I think that we can agree to disagree and we just
Call
keep
the
it
question.
moving. You know what I mean? Because we are not going to agree on this, and I don't want to keep like, well, why did you say this? And why did you say that? And I mean, we all have our opinions. We're not going to agree, but these are my colleagues. I respect every last one of y'all. But we're not going to agree on this.
And I agree with that, which is why I was saying, what is the outcome to the disagreement? Is it setting a limit and then allowing Jennifer to approve that, and then maybe setting a limit for her and allowing Mayor to approve that? Or do you all want to be the bearers of approval? But there needs to be a checks and balance. That's actually good politics. That is legislation, judicial, and executive branches that checks and balance each other. That is what the democracy that we live under. And I feel like whenever I say that, then I'm questioning about my intentions. And all I'm trying to do is get a fair democracy here, that we can all be accountable on a regular basis and that it doesn't look like what it has been in the past.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I actually agree with you. And believe it or not, I don't talk a lot sometimes because I just want to hear what everybody has to say. I want to write down notes and I want to, I might agree in part, disagree in part. I agree with you. I just don't think that we're all going to agree on this particular issue. We just have to we know that it's changing. We have to just keep the discussions flowing. And even when they get, vigorous or whatever word you want to use, we just, don't take it personally. It's not personal, and I think that we're doing the best thing that we can for our city. But we're just not gonna agree. So it's okay though. It's okay.
It is.
It's okay. I think it's entertaining.
Madam Chair.
Mashallah. Go ahead, Mashallah.
So I think something that we all, I don't know about everybody, but from what I'm seeing with the head nods and the consensuses about making a policy is a step in the right direction. Whether who wants to be accountable to who, certain level for you, and if it's over that, then the mayor, I think that's something that I've seen the most head nods, and I can nod my head to it too, that that will at least put some of these boxes into some type of level of constraint where somebody's not, you know, getting $50,000 cameras. And, you know, I agree with the three $50,000 cameras, that's $150,000. You know, those small tickets turn into big tickets. So I think that I'm on board with some type of policy as opposed to putting it in our hands where it has to be some type of emergency meeting for something, that would be a step in the right direction.
Okay. Do you mind shaping a policy that reports, and then we can go from there? So I feel like we've already touched the December budget update, the 2024 budget, the building renovations. The only other thing that I was going to ask about is the splash pad. I can email Ms. Ike about the.
Just keep going.
I have a real quick comment, if you don't mind.
No.
We received 2 bids for the splash pad. They are way over what our engineer estimated. We are not accepting either of the bids, and we will have to get this rebid.
Okay. And then
Like
the
5
other
times the amount.
5 times the amount.
police thing I
Get a water
can
hose.
email her about, and then we can bring it back to the
Spray
table
everybody.
next month. And then, does anyone have new business?
Madam Chair, I do. I'm sorry. But this goes back to our conversation about the appropriations and zeroing out and getting that. I got an email from the county late last week, and we have to have our amended certificates of resources and or appropriations, so the cleanup budget, into the county no later than December 31st. Now, I will tell you, you all didn't do that last year. Nothing ever made it to the county, so I'd like to do it right with them. So that being said, we are spending the balance of this week getting that cleanup appropriation done so it can be before you at the last remaining council meeting on Monday, which means we either have to schedule 2 other meetings to have 3 readings to get it passed, to get it to the county, or suspend the readings and you pass it Monday night. The same holds true. We will have only had 2 readings on the budget on Monday. So we can schedule a 3rd reading for that, a 2nd reading for the cleanup budget, but then that would still need a 3rd, or you could suspend after the 2nd reading and pass it then. So, I mean, we're going to need another meeting.
I would.
And since everyone's here,
Let's,
or everyone, we have to suspend it to get it passed by the end of the year.
Does anyone think we need another meeting? Because I'm.
No.
I know,
Suspend
right, and I
it.
hate to bring it up, but I
No, if you
didn't know
think
of the
we
county's
should have-
deadline
if you
until.
know, I can't ask you
3
what
days
you're
ago.
gonna vote, but if you think we need another meeting, raise your hand.
I don't think so.
I will tell you, I do not think we need another meeting.
I
Okay.
concur.
How's that sound? But did somebody turn on the air conditioning? 'Cause all of a sudden I got a lot of cold air blowing on me.
freezing in
Is
here.
it broke?
It's freezing.
It's blowing cold air.
It is
Absolutely blowing cold air.
I'm sitting over
It
here.
was
I
warm,
can't
then
even
it was
type.
cold.
My hands got so cold.
Or which one are?
So we don't need another meeting.
Need another meeting.
Okay, does anyone have old business?
Any old business?
And the only thing I would ask in old business, if you find any other things that need to come up on our meeting agenda for the last meeting in December, to kind of put it out there so that if we need to schedule, as is the things that you said, you know, everyone is okay with coming to that one meeting.
Those are the only 2. I know Ms. Bruner at her meeting was talking about a piece of legislation, but we don't have a rush on that for a moratorium on the marijuana dispensaries. So, I mean, in terms of the budget, we have the passage of the budget and the appropriations with a deadline. Those are the only 2 things I know about
Okay.
today.
Alrighty, well then, meeting adjourned at 8:42.